You take those L's and you just keep on learning, and you realize like taking an L is really a beautiful thing. Like learning how to fail is a beautiful process because in that you learn something that one didn't work, but you also learn an alternative that could potentially work.
Welcome back to the Express Yourself Black Man podcast. My name is Kizzle or Kofi, and I'm a mental health advocate, public speaker, and founder of a Kizzle brand, which is a project aimed at raising awareness for depression and helping people through difficult times. Studies show that on average, men lose 2.8 years of their life when they're under heavy stress. The point of this podcast is for me to gain those 2.8 years back. As a black man, society often tries to tell me what I can, can't do, or talk about, which can often leave me feeling trapped. And so this podcast is my release.
Hey, what's up, y'all? You are listening to your Mental Matters podcast. And for those of you watching, thank you for tuning in. I'm your girl, Mo Lu, and we're back with another episode. And we have a very special guest with us tonight, Kofi, also known as Kizzle. But I'm going to have him introduce himself because, I don't want to butcher anything. And I want to give you the floor to just introduce yourself to the people. Who are you, Kofi? What do you do? What are you about?
Absolutely. So my name is Kofi or Kizzle. Some of you that listen to the podcast may know me. Some of you that listen may not. I am the founder of a community called Express Yourself Black Man. And basically, I am very passionate about mental health. And so I just talk about vulnerability. I talk about accountability. I talk about healing. I talk about therapy, anything mental health related, especially when it deals with Black men. And especially when it deals with the Black community, is something that I'm very interested in. So I'm happy to be here. I'm glad you reached out, and I'm looking forward to us doing this episode and then also some other stuff on top of it, hopefully. So for sure.
Yes, sir. And thank you for, accepting, the reach out and, saying yes to being on the podcast. Those of you who've been, down since day one listening, you guys know, like, I'm big on just having Black men speak, especially on the podcast. I feel like I've had different men come on the podcast, and every time it was just like very like refreshing. And I felt like I learned by just listening and being able to hear Black men speak. And I'm sure my listeners have as well. And so, yeah, I just appreciate you for being here. I appreciate you for, just who you are and just what you bring to the mental health space. And yeah, we're going to get into it like in like a few seconds. And so November is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, or Men's Mental Health Month. I want to make sure I'm saying that properly. And I feel like that's new because like, I feel like even like, because there's a lot of months. I mean, I know like May being Mental Health Awareness Month, that's been a thing, right? But I think like November being Men's Mental Health Month. And the thing is, I'm like, it could have been around, but it's just now getting like I feel like the eyes and the ears and the energy that it should have been getting if it's been around for all of this time. And so I think just in light of, November being Men's Mental Health Month, like this episode is like fitting and timely. And so like, I can't wait to like get into it and really like talk about like who you are and what you do and what mental health means to you. But yeah, before getting into that, how do you feel about, November being Men's Mental Health Month?
I like it. I actually, one of the reasons why the page has grown so much is because of all of these like mental health months, Black mental health months. Like, honestly, I always talk about it. And so I feel like it gives people a space to share mental health resources and like mental health pages. And that has been one of the big reasons as to why my page has grown the way it has. Like before, I think May, which was mental health month, I think in general, I was at like less than 10K followers. But then we had mental health month in May. I think June was actually, I don't know, there's been two men's mental health months this year, honestly. June was men's mental health month. And then people came back again and said November is men's mental health month as well.
Gotcha.
So I was like, all right, well, listen, I don't know. June could have been Men's Health Month, or I just don't know. But June and then July, they were back to back like Black mental health and health months, and that has really helped to propel the page and the content and stuff. So I'm a big fan of it. I think it gives us all the space to kind of feel more comfortable having these conversations. I know before I got into mental health, I didn't really think too much about it, but being in the space and understanding like how much more we have these conversations during these months, I realized like these months are actually really, really helpful.
Absolutely. I agree with it. Like I have, nothing negative to say about it. I feel like in my mind, I feel like it's like the more the merrier, right? Like I feel like before these conversations weren't happening enough. Now I feel like there's some traction, like we're on a roll, and I just want to see it continue to progress.
Right.
And so for sure.
Right.
And with every episode, I have like a mental health check-in segment. So I want to ask you currently, how is your mental health?
I would say I'm about at like, I would say a 7-8. And the reason why I feel like a 7-8 is always like the safe number to give. You're not too low, but you're not like overwhelmingly high. And the reason why I say a 7-8 is because right now I'm at the period where I'm trying to like, so I'm on Instagram and I want to get people over to YouTube. So I've been pushing people heavy, like, yo, listen, subscribe to the YouTube. We got the podcast episodes out on the YouTube. We got videos coming out on the YouTube, all that kind of stuff. And so mentally, that's been kind of taxing because in my mind, I'm like, yo, we had 35K plus followers on Instagram. If everybody in a perfect world, right? If everybody was just to take themselves over to YouTube, I'd be probably able to quit my job, right? And just do this full time, which is what I want to do, right? So going to Instagram every day and realizing like I got all these people on Instagram that I'm happy, but I want you guys to convert over to YouTube, and trying to get that to happen has been kind of annoying mentally for me. I'll say annoying rather than like taxing, because at any point in time, I could just really say to myself, like, yo, you're doing a great job, honestly. For you to have a community this big is a blessing in itself. But I'm kind of like, I don't want to say an overachiever, but for lack of better words, I'll say an overachiever. And so for me, like, I'm always thinking about what's next. And for me, YouTube is next. And so that's kind of been something that's been on my mental a lot. But I'm blessed, man. Like, so that's why I always say 7-8, because these are like what I like to say first world problems, right? Like, it's a first world problem. Like, my struggle right now is I want to get people to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm not struggling to eat. I'm not struggling to find somewhere to sleep. I'm not struggling with like money financially or anything like that. I'm good. I have food on my back. I have clothes. I have food on my back, right? I have food to eat. I have clothes on my back. I have a roof over my head. So I'm at a 7-8, right? Like, I'm solid. So yeah, these are, I'm dealing with first world problems right now, which is honestly okay.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So let's get into the nitty gritty of who Kofi Kizzle is. So what made you become a mental health advocate? Like, how did you get your start in that arena?
So in 2017, for me, I really went through a really big period of depression. And it happened as a result of a failed relationship. So I was in a relationship from the ages of 14 to 19. And we ended up going to college together. And when we got into college, the relationship just ended up failing. And I had to figure out who I was as a result of now being single for the first time in like basically my teenage life. And so I really struggled, and I was sad a lot. I was frustrated and just trying to figure out like what it meant for me to be single, what it meant for me to kind of be going from the ages of 19 to 20 to 21, trying to figure out like adult life, all that kind of stuff. And so I have all these floating questions with not enough answers. And that led to me just really being depressed and not having an outlet. And I realized I had a big problem once I got to the point where I didn't want to be on earth anymore. And I wasn't suicidal. I had suicidal ideations, and there's a difference. So suicidal is like you're planning to engage in suicide. Like, you know how you want to do it and you're ready to do it. Suicidal ideations is more so you're thinking about it. And so for me, it was suicidal ideations. And one of the big examples that I use is when I had a conversation with my friend, and I told her like, yo, if God came down right now and he was like, yo, are you ready to go, or do you want to still stay on earth? I'd have told him like, yo, bro, let's go. I'm ready. Let's pack the bags. I don't know what you need from me, but like, I'll fill out the paperwork. Let's go. Like, that's really how I felt. Like, I was ready. I was done. And that's when I realized I needed help, and I need to figure out a way out of what I was feeling. And even then, in that moment, I still didn't consider therapy as an option. Like I still didn't consider therapy as an option. None of my friends suggested therapy. And it just led me to figuring out how to cope with depression and how to deal with what I was dealing with, what I was experiencing. So I just dived into learning a bunch of different things because I wanted to take my mind off of what I was thinking about. And so that led to me investing time in learning Photoshop, investing time in learning website design, graphic design, all these different things, which have played a role in the development of Express Yourself Black Man. So I ended up starting a project called A Kizzle Brand in 2017. That's when after I got out of the period of feeling like severely depressed, I came out to people and said, yo, I've been dealing with depression. This is something that we should talk about more. So A Kizzle Brand was really just a project aimed at raising awareness for depression and helping people through difficult times. And so I did that from 2017 to 2020. And like I told you, I never really dealt with the underlying issues of why I was actually depressed, which was me being insecure, me seeking external validation from women and people. And I ended up getting into another relationship in 2018. And so in 2018, I'm with this girl and I'm realizing like there's a few red flags, but I'm ignoring them because I feel like I need to be in a relationship and I feel like I can quote unquote fix her. And at some point in time, like she'll be the woman that I want her to be. And so some of the red flags were simply like, I want to get married. She doesn't want to get married. I want to have kids. She doesn't want to have kids. And so in a normal relationship or a healthy relationship, these are two things where you guys either come to a compromise or agreement on, or you guys realize like, okay, we're not compatible. In our relationship at that time, it was really like, okay, she's saying one thing, I'm hearing another thing. And we're going to make it work at some point in time, regardless of what she's saying. But that's not the way that you should go about that. And the whole reason why my thought process was that way is because I felt like I needed to be in that relationship. So 2020 happens and the pandemic happens. And I find out in the middle of the pandemic that she cheated on me. Mind you, the pandemic is happening, so I also cannot invest as much time into a Kizzle Brand just because with a Kizzle Brand, I was going to different organizations. I was going to different schools. I was presenting about mental health and like personal success, just things that I feel like I didn't get growing up. So I wanted to give back to the community, but the pandemic obviously happened and I wasn't able to go out to different organizations. And so I found out I found out that she cheated on me. And I'm just thinking to myself, why did I stay in this relationship for so long? Like, why did I invest so much time? Why did I not leave earlier? And I'm asking myself all these questions on top of me feeling like women are evil. I can't trust women. And so it just led me to the point where I realized like, okay, I need to go to therapy because I don't have the answers. And I also don't want to become this toxic guy that, you know, the same narrative, woman gonna cheat on you, woman can't be trusted, you just gotta use them and dip. And I didn't want to be that person, right? Like that's never been me. So I ended up finding a therapist from Psychology Today. And thank God for my friend that had just got into therapy, so she knew the process. And so she put me on and I found a good therapist on my first try, which is honestly a blessing because a lot of people don't find a good therapist on their first try, let alone a Black therapist. And to this day, I'm still having sessions with my therapist. I actually have another session next Monday. And it's honestly been a blessing. And so what ended up happening was I started learning all these things in therapy. And I'm like, yo, why don't we talk? Like, what? Why are we not talking about this? I'm learning all these gems. There's no way I can keep this to myself. And so I started going on my personal IG and just breaking down to people like, yo, this is why I learned in therapy, or this is why y'all should go to therapy. Therapy is dope. Y'all are bugging. Y'all have all this trauma that y'all have not dealt with, and y'all gonna pass it down to y'all kids, and y'all not listening. And all my friend would just hit me up all the time and just be like, yo, bro, you gotta start a podcast. You gotta start a podcast, bro. You gotta start a podcast.
Right.
And I was like, bro, I'm not starting no damn podcast. Leave me alone, bro. Like, I'm not doing that. And the main reason as to why I felt that way is because if you look on the Kizzle Brand IG right now, it does not have more than 900 followers. Throughout the 3-4 years I was doing it, I never got over 1,000 followers on that page. I never got over 250 likes on any post, regardless of what it was. I never really got support and never really got traction. So for me, I just felt like starting a podcast about Black mental health, like who the heck would even want to listen to that when I was basically talking about mental health from 2017 and it never really got any traction. Plus, I didn't believe in podcasts. I didn't think anybody our age listened to podcasts, but boy, was I wrong. And I ended up just I ended up just getting over myself, getting over the fear of failure, getting over worrying about what people think about me, and just starting a podcast and not really asking for too much support from people. Because that's another thing that people trip up on. They start things and they just want everybody around them to support. And it's like, bro, listen, we in New York, that's just not how it works. Sometimes people just be hating. Sometimes people just don't believe in what you're doing. Sometimes people around you just aren't your target audience. So I got over all of that and I just was like, all right, I'm gonna start this podcast with my kids in mind. Like, if I was to talk about what I'm dealing with as a 24-year-old Black man, this is gonna help my son in the future. This is gonna help my daughter in the future. And so that was my initial thought process. Like, this is something that will be legacized. Like, at some point in time, my kids will be able to listen to this and be able to gain some kind of information from it. And so that's how Express Yourself Black Man started, was just a podcast. And then the podcast last year, December, and then in January of this year, I just decided, like, you know what, I want to kind of I just want to try and grow the IG. So I want to post more about like how to do different things. And I just started with just text posts and just like certain things that I felt like were reminders to myself. And then that led into like, Black man, this is what you should do with this, or Black man, here are 5 tips for this. Black man, here's that. And it just really just took off. Like I told you, like the May and June months with those mental health months, Black mental health months, all those kind of months really helped it to take off because people gravitated to the page because they were looking for that kind of those kind of conversations. So it's been a blessing. Honestly, like I always say, all glory to God. Has really been divinely timed because I didn't expect it to take off the way it has, honestly.
I love that. I love what you shared. I think, well, for me personally, I just love a good story, like a good story that gradually builds up over time. Like, it was a journey. I feel like you kind of just walked me through like a real journey that I feel like could be so helpful for other Black men, other Black people in general, men and women, to know that you can take a chance on yourself, you can take a chance in therapy. And just the self-awareness, I feel like that was in there to see that like it could potentially grow into something toxic if you do not, tackle it. So
yeah. And you know what the thing was is like I found myself saying certain things and just indulging or like engaging in certain content or consuming certain content that I knew wasn't helping me. Like, it just wasn't helpful. It was the content that was like, well, women can't be trusted, and you really just need to, can I curse on here or no?
You can curse on here.
Okay. Well, yeah. You really just need to fucking tuck or just effing leave and all that kind of stuff. And I just felt like, yo, bro, like, why am I listening to this, bro? This has never been me. This is hurt. Like, and so for me, I was like, all right, once I acknowledged that, and once I also acknowledged that that's not the person that I wanted to be, it was kind of a simple solution, which was like, go to therapy. I remember like, I was itching once I sent that email. I was like, yo, bro, I gotta just get in here and talk to somebody, bro. And for a lot of people aren't that way though. A lot of Black men aren't that way. Like, I get those comments all the time where it's like, bro, I know you say it's okay for us not to be okay, but how is it okay for us not to be okay when the people around us say it's not okay, right? And I'm just like, bro, fuck them. Like, honestly. And that's really the simple response. But a lot of times we overcomplicate it because we are seeking that external validation from people. We do look to people in order for us to feel better about ourselves. But for me, it's like, honestly, I don't care, bro. And that's what also like helps people to be successful, because the less you care about what people have to say and what people will say about what you're doing, the easier it is for you to market yourself, the easier it is for you to put yourself out there, because you don't care what people's opinions are, right? Like, I didn't care when I first started Express Yourself Black Man that people were going to look at it and be like, here he goes, starting something else again. You feel me? Like, I didn't care. I was like, you know what? I made terms with the fact that it could potentially die, and it could potentially be nothing. And I'm okay with that because I'm doing it for me. I think a lot of times people do a lot of things. They say they're doing it for themselves, but they're really doing it for like clout or like what it'll look like on the external. But when you're doing it for the internal, everything else will fall in line. And even if it doesn't, it doesn't matter because you're doing it for you. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's so true. But I guess a question that was coming to me as you were just saying that was, how did you get to that place where you stopped caring about the outside validation?
Yeah, and it takes a while, right? And I still have my moments, right? I'm not gonna sit here and say like I never care, right? I still have my moments. But here's the thing, right? You get to a point where you quote unquote fail so much that the next failure doesn't matter anymore, because you really have been taking those L's, which I call L's lessons, right? You take those L's and you just keep on learning, and you realize like taking an L is really a beautiful thing. Like learning how to fail is a beautiful process, because in that you learn something that one didn't work, but you also learn an alternative that could potentially work. So I'll take the YouTube example, right? Like I talked about YouTube earlier today.
Yeah.
I went on a rant on my story. Like YouTube is a perfect example for me right now. I only have 200 subscribers, or 250 subscribers on YouTube right now, right? I got 35 or 37K on IG. Right now, you could look at the YouTube as a quote unquote failure, because it's not building subscribers on its own. Videos aren't getting more than 100 views right now. That is technically a failure when you look at the IG and it's at 37K, right? But for me, it's like, I don't care, because at the end of the day, I know that I'm going to keep failing until something works. It's really that simple. And you just have to. And we have this negative association with failure where we feel like it's the end all be all. Like once you fail, that's it. But it's like, no, nobody says you fail and then you stop. You fail and you keep going. Right? That's the difference between failing and actually quitting. I think failing is such a beautiful thing. I mean, everybody has to learn how to take that. I'm going to change the word, right? It's not even failing, because I think you only fail when you quit. I think it's learning how to take an L. Like everybody has to learn how to take those L's, because in those L's, you learn things. With the YouTube, like at first I was just, every other post I would talk about the YouTube, and I realized like people not taking it seriously because I'm not taking it seriously. I'm talking about it here and there. So if someone that sees it here and there is like, I'm not subscribing, he ain't really. But now I got it on every post. Every single post has subscribed to the YouTube. Every post under the post, I comment, subscribe to the YouTube. Every other story post, I'm telling people to subscribe to the YouTube. At some point in time, something gonna work. And if you don't subscribe, it don't matter, because at the end of the day, I really don't care. It's gonna take off at some point in time. That's the way I see it. I think if everybody were to get to that point where they're just like, yo, it doesn't matter what people have to say about what I'm doing, and it doesn't matter if it really does well or not, they will be successful. They will be a lot more successful than they are now. But I think we hold on to people's opinions and everything that everybody else has to say a lot more than we should. So we should just go out and do it. And whatever happens as a result of that happens, honestly.
Absolutely. I agree with everything that you said, like with even just regarding the learning to take an L, because in that you learn how to get back up and keep moving. Like, I think that's just the whole point. Like life is, and I feel like with age too, because I feel like it might be harder for young people to understand that concept, but they, hopefully learn in time, or, training them from young, so that when they do fall, like they are able to get back up, brush it off and keep going. But I think as adults learning that, it can take some unlearning. But I think, like taking an L and then learning to get back up and keep it moving, you're good. Like, I think it builds resilience, right? Which is a word that's like my favorite word. Like, it's a word I feel like in the field of mental health and like therapy and stuff, that I feel like everybody needs a certain amount of resilience in order to just make it as a human being in this world. And I think when you build it up over time, it can be very beneficial. Like, so I appreciate you for sharing that. I think so true.
Absolutely. And I'll add to that resilience and discipline, right? Because there's a lot of people that are resilient. There are a lot of people that can take an L, but they just aren't disciplined enough to continue to move on or move forward after they take the L. So they can talk themselves out of it. They can be resilient where they're like, all right, cool, I took an L, it's all good. But then if the discipline is lacking, then you're not able to stay consistent enough for you to be able to continue to iterate on whatever idea it is that you have. Because the whole point of taking an L is to learn what didn't work and then iterate and try something else. If you're not disciplined and you're not trying new things not at a rapid pace, but at a consistent pace, every week, every 2 weeks, every month, bi-monthly, whatever that pace looks like for you, if you aren't disciplined enough with it, then at some point in time, the L becomes null and void because you didn't act on the information. You know what I'm saying? So you have to be able to be resilient, but also disciplined. One thing that has really helped me with Express Yourself Black Man is just, I took my L's and I was disciplined with it. I was like, all right, cool. This is an L. This post ain't do that well, but I learned and then I try something else the next post.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm posting so much. I'm posting 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Something gotta pop at some point in time, and then you just learn and then you figure stuff out. Like I told you, I didn't start right away with the black man. Here's how you do this, black man, blah 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 blah. I started with just things that spoke to me, and I, as a result of that, at one point in time, I just randomly decided to put black man in front of the post, and I realized that did so much better than the other posts. So now I'm iterating. I'm like, all right, cool. Let me do 3 more posts like this and see what happens. Let me just say random stuff that I've said in the past that didn't even do that well and see if people respond. And they did. So I'm like, all right, cool. Now we have a process that works. But people sometimes take the L. They either don't learn from the lesson or they learn from the lesson and they don't implement it further because they aren't disciplined. And you have to have both. You have to be resilient and disciplined for sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. I feel like you summed that up perfectly. I'm like, I don't even got to add nothing else to that. I feel like it's so true, like legit. Like, and I feel like that's what a lot of, I mean, millennials, not to throw millennials under the bus, but a lot of millennials lack like the discipline, right? To know like it, you know, like it requires that whatever it is that you want to be successful at, whatever it is you're working towards, even in, you know, relationships, right? That we, you know, touching on a little bit, or maybe we touched on before when we were talking a little bit, was like with like discipline is required for a relationship to work. Like you can't just, you know, when you get tired, be like, all right, I'm gonna throw in the towel now. I was here for a good time, not a long time. No, especially if you want to be in a successful relationship and then you have plans for marriage and you have a future and a vision for your life, it requires discipline in whatever arena. So I think like, I love that.
Don't even get me started on it. Don't even get me started. It definitely takes discipline, man. It definitely takes a lot of discipline. You gotta, man, I'm in a relationship now, and it's just like, first of all, I didn't expect this to happen, right? And I haven't even told anybody, but this is the girl that I was with. This is an exclusive.
I'm here for the exclusives.
Yeah. Honestly, I had not told anybody yet, but I'm with the girl that we broke up in 2017. We're back together, right? And you can imagine what that process looked like. So we were kindled in 2020. No, not 2020. We were kindled in 2020. Towards the end of 2020.
Yeah.
And we just kind of just like, you know what, we want to do this again. I was like, yeah, let's do this. But at first it's like a bunch of trauma because it's like, yo, we broke up at one point in time. Like you could break up with me again. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So we have to get over the relationship trauma. We have to get over our own individual insecurities. We got to learn how to communicate with each other again. We have to learn each other again. And if we don't do all that, we're not in a relationship right now. And the relationship is flourishing, in my opinion. I think we both understand our communication styles now. There's a lot of love there. We're both healthy individuals in terms of like mental, physical, and we just vibe, and it's just fun. We just have fun. We just laughing all the time, and that doesn't happen if we're not able to stay disciplined enough through those tough times, because it's not like it was all peaches and cream when things first started. It was a lot of crying. It was a lot of you don't get me, or I don't get this, or like I don't know why we have to do all this work, and like a lot of difficult conversations between each other and family and friends that are now like, damn, this dude is back, or damn, shorty back. Like, you get what I'm saying? So it's like, you gotta understand how to stay disciplined through that. And you also have to have a goal in mind too. Like if you have a goal in mind, it just makes it all a lot easier because you're like, all right, cool, I'm working towards something. And I'm tracking progress too. So like, yeah, definitely relationships, man. And a lot of the relationship content that I post on the page, it has come from me just really trying out things in the dating and the relationship phase of, you know, our relationship now. So a lot of this stuff has come from her in our relationship now. So I just try to tell people like, yo, listen, man, at the end of the day, you're going to attract what you are. Yeah. And if you want to attract something healthy, you got to be healthy yourself. And then y'all also have to work on y'all communication inside the relationship. So we do a bunch of check-ins. Like we just had a check-in like maybe like last week. Or early. Actually, we had a check-in early this week.
Oh, is she over there?
Yeah, she over there.
Hey, girl. Oh my God, I love that. You over there talking all nice about her and right in front of her.
Yeah, come on. You know you gotta You gotta big up. You gotta big up your mom. She's helped a lot, man. A lot of people always say like, "Yo, you do express yourself, black man. Like, this is dope, bro. You don't miss." And I was like, "Yo, I have missed, bro. You just didn't see that post. I sent it to her first, and she was like, "Oh hell no, you can't post this, man." I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Nah, cause you tweaking right here." And I read it again. I'm like, "You're right. I'm tweaking. Like, I can't post this." And it's because the post came from a little bit of trauma. Like, I still had a little bit of trauma there, and I didn't even realize that it seeped into the post. You get what I'm saying? So like, she's helped a lot behind the scenes, and just helped me to stay sane with a lot of this stuff too, because it's not easy. When I first started, I used to take a lot of things like personal. When somebody would come and make a comment about something, and I just felt like I made a really great post, and somebody came and made some negative comment, I'd get tight. And I told her, I'm like, "Yo, I can't believe this person said that." She's like, "Yo, listen, babe, like, everybody not gonna get it, and everybody is commenting from their own place. And so you got to understand, like, yo, at some point in time, like, people are gonna view things the way they want to view things, and that's not a reflection of you. That's just a reflection of what they're dealing with. And so it's like, yeah, man, it's a lot of stuff that she's definitely helped with behind the scenes. So I gotta, I haven't said anything because things weren't official and all that, so I was just chilling. But now we official and stuff, so it's much easier for me to have these kind of conversations and be candid about it because. Yeah, that's my show.
Oh, that's so great. I mean, congratulations on getting back together.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. Yeah.
I think that's beautiful. I mean, well, first of all, there was like two things that you said that I was like, "Ooh, I wanted to say something about that." Because you said you attract what you are, right? And I think with social media and stuff, there's a lot of commentary all the time. I mean, Instagram could sometimes just be a melting pot of like, things that aren't necessarily like accurate or whatever. But that's just an interesting like statement or interesting perspective. And some people do believe that, like, you attract what you are, or maybe there's something in you that maybe you don't see or you don't know that is making this person attracted to you or making you guys come together. So would you say that, like, I guess back then when you guys were together and then ended up breaking up, do you feel like what do you feel like you were back then, or maybe what you had or what you lacked back then that you now have that's making the relationship flourish?
So here's the thing, right? Back then, we were both two very insecure individuals. I'm not saying that we're not insecure now. Everybody has their own insecurities. But we were so insecure to the point where it was clashing. Like, it was clashing. And my insecurity was leading me to be extremely controlling, which was just driving her in the opposite direction. And so the reason why I say you attract what you are is mostly because I'm talking about attachment styles. And we're gonna have to have a whole different.
That's a whole other.
We're gonna have to have a whole different episode about attachment styles.
Yes.
For anybody listening, I have an episode on it. It's my first episode on the podcast. If you want to learn more about it, you can go look at that. You can get the ebook From Her and the Healing, The Black Man's Guide to Feeling. I have a whole chapter on it. Or you can research on your own. You can look up YouTube videos because that's exactly what I did. But attachment styles are basically the way that we form relationships with people. And they come from mostly our parental relationships or our relationships with our caregivers when we're super young. The way that they treat us is the way that we learn how to love other people. And so if you have an unhealthy attachment style, which is there are 3 unhealthy attachment styles and 1 healthy attachment style. If you have an unhealthy attachment style, most likely you're going to find somebody else with an unhealthy attachment style, and y'all are going to have issues in your relationship just because you guys have a flawed or skewed perspective on what love is, just because that's what you were taught growing up indirectly by your caregivers. And so when I say you attract what you are, what I'm really saying is, hey, your attachment style may be unhealthy and you need to heal that. And a lot of people aren't aware of their attachment style, and so they have their subconscious driving a lot of their behavior, thinking that they're attracting a certain people, not even understanding that they're attracting a certain people because subconsciously that's what they're pushing. That's what they're looking for. So like a perfect example with attachment styles is that we have an avoidant attachment style, which is someone that kind of avoids love, avoids connection. And we have someone that's like an anxious insecure, right? Which is someone that's like needy, that needs that connection. In attachment styles, there's a very well-known theory or like well-known pattern, which is anxious insecure people normally pair up with avoidant people. And the reason why is because avoidant is looking for someone that they can push off that's going to come back. And anxious insecure is looking for someone that's going to push them away, that's okay with them continuing to fight and come back and continue with that chase. And so you always end up having this like, my partner is too needy, my partner is too distant, right? And they're in a relationship and it works for them because that was what was modeled at home for them. So they're kind of replaying that they're kind of replaying that pattern that they saw from when they were younger. So I'm just saying you attract what you are, because once you actually heal and you do that work to heal your attachment style, you do that work just to heal yourself as an individual, you start to attract other healed individuals just by way of you siphoning out or filtering out who is not healed in your circle. Like, honestly. And people don't realize, like, once you heal, your lens is so much different. I have friends that I don't even talk to like that anymore. Not because I don't love them, not because I don't care about them, but just because I understand where their lens is at. I'm not on that, we're not on that level anymore. So it's like, what's the point of me continuously engaging in conversations with you when I just know you have a different kind of thought process than me, which is not healthy, in my opinion, right? So just by way of you filtering out quote unquote toxic people, you will start to attract more healthy people just because you understand what healthy looks like. A lot of us don't really understand what healthy looks like. So we're attracting all these unhealthy relationships just because we don't even know what healthy looks like. It was never modeled for us, honestly.
I love
so that's
that.
my long-winded answer on that.
No, he just spoke, y'all. I hope y'all listening. I hope y'all paying attention, because that was a lot of gem droppery. That was a lot. That was a mouthful that I feel like a lot of people can take stuff away from. Go look up attachment styles and see which one aligns with you. I'm definitely familiar, and these are just important things for people to know, because I think it's the education piece that's necessary. A lot of people just don't know these things, right? And so that's why doing the podcast, having these conversations are so necessary and important. And that's why, I'm so happy that you're here to, kind of shine the light on that, just from the male point of view. And so, yeah, I guess, moving along, if you could offer a piece of advice to any Black man listening or watching, what would you say?
I wish I had the shirt on right now, but I don't. But I have merch and it says Black man, it's okay to not be okay. That's what I would say, because I feel like in 2017, when I was depressed, that's one thing that I would have loved to hear somebody tell me. It's okay for you not to be okay. Because ultimately it is. We all have moments in which we're depressed, right? Like, people think depression is like this like taboo thing we shouldn't talk about, and like you should never be depressed. But we all have those moments. Some may be longer than others. Some may be more severe than others, but we all have moments in which we're depressed. We go through life events, maybe a death in the family, maybe a breakup, and that causes like situational depression or functional depression, which you're like functioning in normal, functioning like everything is normal when you're out in the world and out in society. But when you get back home, you're depressed, right? Like you're sad, you're frustrated with what happened, you're frustrated with a life event. So Black man, it's okay to not be okay. What's not okay though is for you not to talk about it, right? Like it's not okay for you not to talk about it. It's not okay for you not to seek help. It's not okay for you to bottle everything up, because at the end of the day, all that's going to cause you is years of your life, honestly. And that's another reason why I started the podcast, why I started the page, Express Yourself Black Man, because I looked at a study. I looked up online, like I always do a bunch of research. I looked up online and it said Black, or not even Black men, just men in general, lose 2.8 years of their life when they're under heavy stress. 2.8 years. That's almost 3 years of our life because we're under heavy stress. How do you get out from being under heavy stress? You express yourself, you talk about it, you find routes in which you can alleviate that stress. A lot of that can be through therapy, meditation, mindfulness, meditation, journaling, all the different kind of things that I talk about in the ebook, all the different kind of things that I talk about on the Instagram page. But my whole point is we have to get to the point where we are comfortable expressing ourselves. We have to get to the point where we realize it's okay for us not to be okay, but it's also not okay for us to not talk about it. Because at the end of the day, we're always going to have periods in which we're not okay. And it's how we deal with it that ultimately determines the quality of life in which that we live, honestly. There are a lot of men that hit me up and they're like, yo, bro, I'm going through this right now and da-da-da. And like, I just need somebody to talk to about it. And I appreciate that, because like, that's them finally getting it off their chest. That's them finally feeling comfortable enough to actually express it. And that helps them in that moment. And then the next step after that is like, all right, cool. What are your resources? Let's see if we can get you into therapy. Let's see if we can maybe get you the ebook if you feel like that will help you, because it's important for us to have these tools. I like to say tools in the toolbox. I've heard it from like Jay Barnett or some other Black therapists, but it's important for us to have tools in our toolbox that's not just getting mad and flipping out and throwing our phone. Like when I first got cheated on, I was so mad. I had my phone in my hand. I hung up on her. I just threw my phone, dented my apartment wall. I had to caulk that up before I moved down. I'm just like, yo, bro, like, granted, of course I'm mad, right? Like, I just heard some information that got me tight. Of course I'm gonna be upset, but it's a way in which you process that. And I would have processed that completely different now. Like, I just take 15 minutes right now. I'll be mad. I'm not gonna lie. But the way in which the way in which I handle my anger is completely different now because I have a process for it. I pause, I assess why I'm mad, I assess if it's okay for me to be mad, right? Because sometimes you're mad because of an assumption rather than what's actually fact, right? And I don't even want to get into all that, but I pause and just assess my emotions, try to understand, try to validate if I need to. And then I take a route from there to try and figure out what I need to do in order for me to express my emotions healthily, which is not throwing my phone. Maybe it's journaling, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's my next therapy session. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, it's all different kind of ways that you can deal with you can express what you're dealing with. That doesn't have to be some unhealthy way. It doesn't have to be you smoking your life away or drinking your life away or being somebody up or beating yourself up. Like, there's so many healthy ways, but you just got to find those resources. You got to understand, you got to know what they are. And for me, it was really just going to therapy and then also tapping into what felt good for me to understand what worked. And that's what I try to give out in the community, honestly, because we just don't have it.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that a lot. I think, there's so many different things that was coming up as you were talking, but I'm like, I don't like this conversation. That's, I'm like, there may need to be a part 2 somewhere, because I was about to get in a bag real quick that I don't think we'll be able to get out of. So I'm gonna stay here.
Oh man.
But yes, sir. You dropped some stuff there. And I think, it's so true. Everything was on point. And so a question that I have, and I always, whenever there's a Black male on the podcast, I like to ask, because I'm a woman, right? And you're a man. And so these are things that I feel like in our community, like the relationship between the Black woman and the Black man have historically, we've seen over time been damaged, right? And so I feel like sometimes it can be difficult for even just Black men and women as friends to be able to communicate in a healthy way. Relationally, of course, we know the Black family has been under attack for forever. But I think as a woman, as a Black woman, I always want to know, how can women be better, just like friends, partners, whatever, to a Black man? What are things that men would like to see from women who are in their lives when it comes to mental health and kind of being supportive and being there for them?
I'll tell you what worked with me. For me, it was checking in. Yo, hey Kofi, how you doing? What's going on? How's everything? How you been? It was checking in. It's offering resources. So like I said, my friend that went to therapy was a Black woman. She was Black woman. She said, psychology today, put your zip code in. And that was the end of it. Literally. And then I was like, all right, cool. Send me the link, put my zip code in. Now I'm looking through therapists. So it's really just that. And it's also providing a space in which it's no judgment. It's a judgment-free zone. I can come to you and I can talk and I can know that you're not going to judge me for the way that I'm expressing myself. You're not going to look at me differently. You're not going to use it against me in the future, because a lot of times, a lot of men, and I'm not saying that men should do this, because we shouldn't, but we get to the point where if we express ourselves and it's used against us in the future, we're like, I'm never expressing myself ever again to any other woman. I'm like, bro, okay, first of all, listen, you got to understand that was one woman that did that. That does not mean that all women are going to do that. And what are you going to do? Don't you want to get into another relationship again? Assuming you're a heterosexual male, you want to be in a relationship with a woman. You have to be able to trust woman with some kind of information. You can't move on that trauma just because of the fact that it happened with somebody else. So for me, it really would just be offering a space where we feel comfortable which is not really always on y'all, because at the same time, like I feel like everybody should be able to either have a therapist, and if you don't have a therapist, maybe a guy friend, right? Like we shouldn't always use Black women or our friends as therapists. We should also have other alternatives.
Yes.
But it will be that. It would also be checking in and also offering resources. So pages, websites, books. That's really all we can honestly ask for from a good friend. It doesn't even have to be a Black woman. I think, in my personal experience, Black women have helped me a lot when it comes to my mental health. The first friend that I was talking to in 2017, when I was really depressed, was a Black woman. And she was a person that I almost talked to, like, she was basically my therapist at that point. Honestly, I really didn't have a therapist. I talked to her about a lot of the stuff that I was going through, and she would listen and respond. And she was a bad texter, but she just prioritized that because she understood where I was at in that moment. You get what I'm saying? So I appreciate that. That was a Black woman that helped me a lot. Black woman helped me find my therapist. My therapist is a Black woman. You get what I'm saying? So like all throughout my journey, it's always been Black women kind of helping me. So that's why I really hate when I'm on a page and I see this narrative that Black woman gonna use stuff against you, or woman gonna use stuff against you, or you can't trust Black women. I always tell people like, yo, bro, shut up, bro. That's what I want to say. That's what I don't say, but I don't say that. But it's always something like that worded professionally. I'm like, bro, that don't make any kind of sense, bro, because I have more than 3 examples in which Black women have helped to contribute to this page. And if you look at the history of Black mental health, a lot of Black mental health organizations have been founded and run by Black women. Black Men Heal offers pro bono therapy to Black men in a lot of different states. That's founded by a Black woman. Therapy for Black men, that has been founded by a Black woman and a man, but it's primarily run by a Black woman. The man operates in the background. He helps out a lot. I'm not going to say he doesn't, but the face that you see of that brand is a Black woman. So when you look at this and you look at our community and you look at who's really trying to do the healing in our community, I'm not saying Black men are absent. Black men are there, but so are Black women. So we gotta stop this whole notion that Black women are not trying to heal or not trying to help us, or that Black women ain't shit and all this other nonsense that we hear, because it's really just coming from a place of trauma. When you do the research, you realize that Black women have been there, are still there, and will always be there. So we gotta listen, man. I don't ever condone that, honestly. At all.
No, for sure. And thank you for that. I appreciate that for sure. I feel like, the narrative is out there. I feel like, with community healing, I feel like we'll continue to see more and more changes and more disunity happening between, the Black community on a holistic level. But yeah, I appreciate that. And just 2 more questions before we wrap up. How influential do you feel culture played in your mental health and wellness? Like, and that could be culture, your cultural background, that could be whether it's, I know you're from New York, it could be New York culture. So in whatever way culture, sits with you, how influential do you feel like it played in your mental health and just the way you viewed it?
Right. I think culturally, mental health has always been a taboo. I think we all know that in the Black community. It's always been this kind of thing where it's like, what we talking about mental health? We talking about depression, anxiety? What you crazy? You good, bro? Like, what's up with you? Right. And I think that's always been one of the reasons as to why I've been so adamant about especially so Black man, because part of what I'm trying to do is shift the culture. I'm trying to make it cool. Honestly, I'm trying to make it cool for Black men to talk about their feelings, which is like a radical idea. But from this last year, I see that it's not as radical as I thought it was. Like, it's really something that we need in our culture. We're starting to see more artists talk about it. We're starting to see more people that are prominent Black people in our culture talk about it. But initially, talking about my feelings, talking about mental health, talking about being able to cry, crying, all these different things have been like kind of taboo. So it's like, for me to be at the point where I feel comfortable talking about it has taken a lot of work, a lot of internal work, a lot of me just realizing like, it's okay for me to talk about these things through therapy and all these different things. But culturally, it's kind of been not accepted. And I think it's still not really culturally accepted, but we're getting to a space where we're starting to have these conversations about why it should be, right? And I think in the next 5 years, I think we're going to see a prioritization of therapy. We're going to see people understanding what it means to be depressed, what it means to be suicidal, what it means to have suicidal ideations, anxiety. We're going to see people understanding how to deal with mental health issues in their family members, why they should also talk about it in their family, especially in the Black community. And I think that's going to be a beautiful period because I think our generation is going to lead a lot of that change. So I think culturally, we're still not where we need to be. I think it's definitely impacted me because it made me feel like I shouldn't talk about it. But I think moving forward, our culture is definitely changing. I'm starting to see a lot of shit, especially with a lot of the organizations that are doing the work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, just with culture, you know, I know for me, like being Caribbean, like I think it's very natural for Caribbean people to just, they don't feel nothing. They just move, you know, they just, you know, we move regardless, whatever's going on, we move.
Keep
And so,
going,
yeah. And so it's definitely a thing where having to educate now, just being on the other side of it, where it's like, no, like I'm in this field. So like those things that you saying, nah, that's not what we do over here. And so like having to, you know, and sometimes you will get those looks, like you were saying, you'll get those looks or those questions or like, what you talking about? Like what?
Right. Talking
And
about
it's
mental
like,
health, talking about therapy.
right. Like, or it's not that serious. Like, or, you know, like, or like you were talking about earlier, like people seeing it as a weakness or why you telling people your business or what have you, right? And so I think, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing the way that things progress in culture, in our culture, just all across the board. Because even like the older generations, like whether they want to admit it or not, like the mental health conversation is on TV now. It's all over the place. So even it's kind of like undeniable. Like when things start to become more and more in your face, you have no choice but to like, you know, like acknowledge it even a little bit, you know? So yeah, just a final question for you. What is an affirmation, a scripture, or a quote that you live by when you're down, if you're going through it, if you're struggling, if your mental health is not in a place where you would like for it to be? What's something that you live by that's like your go-to thing in those times, if anything?
No, there's a few things. I'm trying to figure out which is the good one, which is the one that I need to. There's a couple. There's one by Will Smith. There's its greatness is not this esoteric, elusive, godlike feature that only the special among us will ever taste. It's something that truly exists in all of us. And I think when I first heard that quote, I was like, damn. Like we always like put these celebrities on this pedestal where we feel like they're the only people that can ever accomplish greatness. But it's like, nah, bro, they're people. Like that's the key word here. They're people. You're a person too. You have it inside of you. You just have to tap into it. So that's one thing that I always think about when it comes to like me feeling like I can't do something that's like impactful in our community. Because at the end of the day, everybody else that I see that's a celebrity or that's an icon in our community is just a person at the end of the day. They just ended up tapping into their greatness. Another one is I think is everything you want is on the other side of failure, or not all is on the other side of fear. Right? Because a lot of times we're very scared of like taking a leap of faith. And I think oftentimes we have to take that leap of faith in order for us to get to that next level. And then there's another one. There's another one by Confucius.
Oh, we like Confucius.
Yeah, Confucius said, "He who says he can and he who says he can't or cannot are both usually right." And that's so true. That's manifestation. Perfectly explained. You say you can do something, you will do it. If you say you cannot do something, you cannot do it. That's why you have to speak with intentionality. Your tongue is very, 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 very powerful. What you say out of your mouth is what will happen. What you say out of your mouth is also what you will subconsciously start to believe, which is why affirmations are so important. So be very careful with what you say. Be very careful with how you say it and what you consume, especially because these things all play a role in how you perceive the world and what you think is possible for yourself. I'm not one of those people that believes in grand rising and good morning. I'm gonna let y'all know that right now, right? I don't believe in the grand rising good morning thing.
Don't grand rise me, please.
Please leave it out. Don't grand rising king me. Good morning, bro. Is perfectly fine. I'm good. I'm just saying the things that you say have a big, big, big impact on what you end up doing and accomplishing. So if you want to be successful, every day I'm successful. And start to think about what it is that success looks like for you. Like for me, I have a very clear vision of what it is. And I say to myself, in the next 5 years, I'm gonna be there. I say that to myself almost, my girl know, I say that all the time now. I'm like, yo, next 5 years, you're gonna be there. I don't know why you worrying about this job. In 5 years, you quit. It don't matter. Like that's really what I be saying. Because I truly believe it. And when you truly believe it, and you best believe in those 5 years is gonna happen.
For sure.
And then 5 years from now, I'm gonna look back at this interview and I'm be like, yep, I knew it. I knew it 5 years ago, because I'm putting myself in that space where you have to, people talk about frequencies and energy and all this kind of stuff. And I'm really starting, at first I used to think it was a bunch of hoopla. I'm like, bro, what y'all talking about energy waves and frequencies and all this stuff and vibrating at a different frequency and blah, blah. Like, this don't make no sense. But that stuff is really true. And you start to vibrate at those frequencies when you start to believe in what it is that you say that you want to do. So when you start to believe in that and you put yourself in that space, everything starts to align for you. I'm telling you, bro. I'm telling you. Everybody that I've collabed with, as far as Express Yourself Black Man, most of the people have reached out to me. Most of the people, I didn't even know who they were, right? And they just ended up reaching out to me. Sometimes I would reach out to people and they wouldn't even respond. And then 2-3 months later, we back and forth DM. And I'm just like, yo, bro, like this is wild. I don't even know how we got cool. I don't even know how we got cool. We just, now things are aligning. But that's what happens when you put yourself in a space where you say, like, I'm going to be successful. This is something that I'm doing. This is what I want. The universe starts to move out of your way.
Absolutely.
It starts to make things happen for you. And you start to meet people that are going to help you to get to that next level. You got to be open to that, though. But yeah, those are my quotes. Those are my quotes. And they help me a lot, for sure. As far as like framing my mind, and like definitely when I'm down, I start to think about these kind of things. I understand that, everything with time. Everything.
I love that. That's so true.
Stay prayed up, for real.
You have to. And you got to believe in yourself. We said that from the beginning of this episode. You got to bet on yourself, but you can't bet on yourself if you don't believe in yourself. So I think that's big. That's key. Like for everyone, if you having self-doubt or insecurity, or you want to do something but don't know where to start, like just act, just do. And then, I think confidence because I feel like we're kind of in the same realm with just the podcasting and the platform and everything like that. So I think it really just takes like, there's another level of belief in self that you have to have in order to, because success is subjective, right? So for me, success is the fact that I'm able to do what it is that I love doing and I'm happy doing it is success to me, right? And like the accolades or, the, traction and stuff, I feel like that comes along with what I'm doing and the work that I've put in behind it, but that doesn't equate to success. So like if the numbers aren't there, it doesn't mean that it wasn't a successful episode, or I didn't, work hard and do what it is that, I needed to do. So for everybody it's subjective, but I think you're able to have that mindset when you believe in you, and you believe in your abilities no matter what. So my encouragement for sure is for everybody to really just tap in and grow in that belief in self. And you gain that too from like therapy, self-awareness, like self-love, just doing that healing work to get to that place. Because if you got a whole bunch of gook there, you got a whole bunch of unhealed stuff there, it's going to be hard to feel like you can accomplish anything. And so, And so I think that's what this is about. That's why these spaces are created, because I love people. I love humans. And so, and I just want us, especially Black humans that look like me and you. I want us to be our best selves, because, the society that we live in wasn't necessarily set up that way for us to, be great from the inside out. And so, that's why I do what I do. And I appreciate you so, so much for being a part of this. This was great. Yes.
Thank you for reaching out, and thank you for having me on, and all the dope questions and the conversation. I definitely appreciate it, for sure.
Of course. And let the people know where they could find you, your socials, your tags, everything. Just let everybody know where they can find you.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram at Express Yourself Black Man. I'd much rather you subscribe on YouTube, Express Yourself Black Man. That's where the platform is moving. What I always tell people is IG is dope. And yes, we have a dope community, and I will continue to invest in it. But at the same time, IG does not pay me for the content that I put up. So I'm out here working my ass off to put content up 3 times a day. And I just like, all right, cool, great. We'll get you a couple followers, but that's not helping to support the platform monetarily. So the way that you can do that without you even have to pay a dime is just subscribe on YouTube. We also have a podcast. It's available on YouTube. It's available on all podcast streaming platforms. It's called The Express Yourself Black Man as well. You can find that at the link in my bio on IG. And we also have an ebook out. So we have an ebook out called From Hurting to Healing, A Black Man's Guide to Feeling. It has 4 different chapters, 1 chapter on breakups, 1 chapter on depression and suicidal ideations, another chapter on anxiety, and then 4 chapters on attachment styles. And I split those chapters into 2 sections. So one section is on my story, just my story in relation to the chapter subject, like how I dealt with it, how I felt when I was dealing with breakups or attachment styles or anxiety or depression. And then the second part of the chapter is how to heal. So just tools, tips, resources, things that work for me in terms of healing those subjects. And then also merch. So I'm wearing the Express Yourself Black Man trucker cap. This is not actually available, but there is a Black Man It's Okay Not to Be Okay trucker cap. There is a shirt. There's an embroidered shirt. There's an embroidered hoodie. We have embroidered sweats. So definitely get yourself some merch, support a Black man, get it for a Black man. And it's definitely the holiday season. So get a Black man in your life a sweatsuit, or get him a trucker cap, or get him the ebook. And then we also have the therapy resources on the link in my bio. So that is, if you click the link in my bio and click therapy resources, I have a list of directories that literally will take you through trying to find a Black therapist. I also have a video breakdown, a tutorial on how to find a Black therapist. So the healing is out there. It is literally everywhere. This podcast is another space for you to heal. So y'all just, stop consuming some of the content that y'all consume. I'm not going to say which pages that y'all be on. So we know. All right. And just start consuming
yeah, I know.
More of the Black. Yeah. We know.
I know what you're talking about. Yes.
They know.
They know.
And start consuming more of the Black mental health content and start healing, man. Because even if you don't see the effects, your family will definitely see it, and the people around you will definitely see it. And I think that's worth it for sure. So that's where you can find me. Definitely reach out, send a DM, leave a review if you listen to the podcast, and just subscribe, follow, however you want to consume the content, but it's definitely out there for y'all.
Absolutely. That's it, guys. Thank you so much, Kizzle, for all that you shared. And make sure you guys subscribe, follow him on everything that he just named. And it's Your Mental Matters podcast, guys. We are out.
Thank you for taking the time out to listen to this episode. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you. So I really hope you got some valuable insight. And I hope I helped in some capacity, whether it be through the platform or the podcast. If you like to support for free, you can like this video if you're on YouTube, or you can share and subscribe regardless of what platform you're listening to the episode on. If you like to support monetarily, now we're talking, you can go to shop.expressyourselfblackman.com and get yourself some merch. We have a hoodie, we have sweatsuits, we have shirts, we have hats. We also have an ebook on how to heal, where I discuss breakups, depression and suicidal ideations, anxiety, and attachment styles. I go in depth about my story with dealing with all of those things, and then I explain how to heal in an easy guide. It's easy to follow. It's easy to go from reading to implementing. So if you're interested in that as well, it's in the shop. The book is called From Hurting to Healing, A Black Man's Guide to Feeling. So consider supporting monetarily, but regardless of how you support, I appreciate you. I hope you have a great day.
Sometimes I know you feel like you ain't got nobody to speak to. A shoulder to lean on somebody you could preach to. No, you need to hear it, my brother, I love you. We got way too much to live for. We got way too much to live for. When we get it all, we want more. Like you lost another one. When we get it, still we want more. I know it's hard, but you just gotta push on. Tell me for only brody, always tryna bring you. If you ever feeling down, bro, you're never alone. If you ever feeling down, you can always hit my phone. If you ever feeling down, bro, you're never alone. Okay, hey, I'm your shoulder to lean on. Express yourself, de-stress yourself. I don't wanna talk about me, tell me how you feeling well. Since you know that you're alive, but this earth feeling